From Troy University and Troy Public Radio, this is On Leadership with Dr. Jack Hawkins, Jr., Chancellor of Troy University.
The term servant leadership was coined in 1970 by author Robert Greenleaf. In its most basic form, servant leadership means to place the needs of your followers above your own. And while servant leadership became popular in the 20th century, it's not a new concept. It's written, in fact, in the book of Matthew, where it says, "I came to serve and not to be served." During my service in the United States Marine Corps and as a young second lieutenant, I learned a very basic lesson of leadership, and that was to take care of your troops, and they will always take care of you. That's a form of servant leadership that has truly served the U.S. military well for over 2 centuries. And when I speak to Troy University students on leadership, I tell them that real leaders eat last. Indeed, leadership is a privilege and not a right. General George Armstrong Custer had it right when he said, "The reward of leadership is the opportunity to lead others and not to sleep in a larger tent." The exciting life story of Dr. Albert Schweitzer is a case study in effective servant leadership. Born in Germany, young Albert grew up to earn degrees in music and theology, and he settled into the comfortable life of a college faculty member at the University of Strasbourg. But as Albert matured, he decided that medicine was his true calling, so he earned a medical degree at age 38. He truly wanted to serve others. But rather than settle down in a profitable practice in Germany, in 1913, Dr. Schweitzer and his wife moved to Africa. They settled in what is now modern-day Gabon. And there in the poorest part of the world, Albert Schweitzer built a hospital serving victims of leprosy, polio, and other diseases. He spent the rest of his life treating the poorest of the poor. And for his service to others, he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Humanitarian Service. The story is told of a work crew near Dr. Schweitzer's hospital who were struggling to move a fallen tree out of a ditch. The laborers asked a doctor who was walking by and dressed in his white coat to lend a hand. But when the doctor made an excuse that he was not dressed for such work, one laborer simply nodded to the bottom of the ditch, where Dr. Schweitzer was taking the lead in removing that tree, soil, coat, and all. Do you practice servant leadership, or do you prefer to be served? Are you ready to jump into the ditch when the situation calls for it? Taking care of the people you serve is not complicated, but it requires commitment and self-discipline. And here are 5 simple tips that I urge you to consider when you're in service to others. 1, be the leader when things go wrong. It's easy to take the bows when all is well, but it's much more difficult to stand up for your people in hard times. 2, give their needs a priority. Listen to your people. It's not by accident that we were given 2 ears, but just 1 mouth. 3, show that you care. The old saying is true. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. 4, assume the responsibility. General Dwight D. Eisenhower was asked by a reporter for his best leadership advice. The future president said, "Leadership requires that you take responsibility for everything that goes wrong and give your subordinates credit for everything that goes well." 5th, share the gain. When things go right, make sure everyone benefits and celebrate the achievements. In closing, please remember the words of the late Winston Churchill when he said, "You make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give." I hope to visit with you again soon.
You've been listening to On Leadership with Dr. Jack Hawkins, Jr., Chancellor of Troy University. On Leadership is available wherever you get your podcast.